Hello and welcome to In Depth. I'm Tina Jha. NASA astronaut Christina Koch, who led the first all-female spacewalk in 2019, landed on Earth on Thursday after a record stay of almost 11 months on the International Space Station. She landed in Kazakhstan after 328 days in space, along with Luca Parmitano of the European Space Agency and Alexander Skvortsov of the Russian Space Agency. Koch's 328 days in space eclipsed Peggy Whitson's record for an American woman on a single space flight at 289 days. The mission is expected to yield new insights into deep space travel, providing researchers valuable data on how weightlessness and space radiation affect the female body on long space flights. Especially her medical data will be valuable to NASA scientists as the agency draws up plans for a long-duration manned mission to Mars. So on this edition of In Depth, we tell you all about Christina Koch's record-setting mission and how will her 328-day stay on the International Space Station help in various future missions. Besides, we'll also talk about Indian women in space. So the American astronaut Christina Koch has left her footprint in history after breaking an iconic space record for womankind. Her 328 days in space eclipsed Peggy Whitson's record for an American woman on a single space flight at 289 days. More details of this mission in this report.
Brandy, if I might interrupt.
NASA's Christina Koch returned to Earth on 6th Feb after shattering the spaceflight record for female astronauts with a stay of almost 11 months or 328 days aboard the International Space Station.
328 days that she's spent in space.
She touched down at 2:42 p.m. Indian Standard Time in Kazakhstan, along with Luca Parmitano of European Space Agency and Alexander Skvortsov of Russian Space Agency. Koch also achieved a gender milestone in spacewalk with a fellow NASA astronaut Jessica Meyer on October 2019. It marked the first time when two women stepped out of the space station at the same time. Launched into orbit in March 2019, Koch's mission was extended in April from its original span of 6 months to nearly an year after she was already aboard the station. Koch and others will undergo medical testing at NASA's headquarters in Houston. Her medical data will be especially valuable to NASA scientists as the agency draws up plans for long-duration manned mission to Mars.
I spoke of gratitude. I spoke of you.
You see, as far as men and women are concerned, your biological cycle makes a difference. At the same time, your psychological cycle also makes a difference. So these are the differences. As far as your face and other aspects are concerned, particularly the aspects related with your dressing. Recently, only in month of March, we had encountered a situation where two women astronauts were supposed to undertake a spacewalk, but they were only having one spacesuit which a woman can wear. So there are a lot amount of differences because of structure of human beings also.
Koch and Meyer followed October 2019's landmark event with two further spacewalks together on the 15th and 20th January 2020. In the past, several women have achieved historical milestones. Some of them are Valentina Tereshkova, who became the first woman in space. Tereshkova blazed a trail for many female space flyers who would follow. Tereshkova, a Soviet cosmonaut, was selected from over 400 applicants to launch on Vostok 6 mission, June 16, 1963. NASA astronaut Peggy Whitson was the first woman to command the International Space Station when she took the helm of the outpost in April 2008 during Expedition 16. On her next space flight in 2016, she became first woman to command the space station twice. When she took command of Expedition 51, she holds a record for being the oldest woman in space, having returned from her final mission at the age of 57. She has spent 665 days in space. USSR Svetlana Savitskaya was the first women spacewalkers who worked outside Salyut 7 space station for over 3 hours with the male cosmonaut Vladimir Zanibekov on July 25, 1984. NASA astronaut Susan Helms was the first woman member of International Space Station crew who served as a flight engineer during Expedition 2 mission from March to August 2001. Koch has previously said that a spaceflight would help the US Space Agency better understand the effects of long-term space flight as NASA aims to return astronauts to Moon by the year 2024. US President Donald Trump congratulated Koch on her record-setting mission. With inputs from Vipul, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
So what exactly is a spacewalk and why is it considered so important? While astronauts conduct experiments outside the space station or spacecraft, they also have to take special precautions and wear special gears for their spacewalks. Let's take an in-depth look at what a spacewalk is, how astronauts prepare for it, and how do the astronauts stay safe outside their spacecraft.
Anytime an astronaut gets out of a vehicle while in space, it is called a spacewalk, also known as an EVA or extravehicular activity. The first person to ever go on a spacewalk was Russian astronaut Alexei Leonov. This first spacewalk was 10 minutes long and was performed on 18th March 1965. At the time, it was considered a big feat in terms of what humans could achieve. Another frontier crossed. Today, however, astronauts going on spacewalks outside the International Space Station is not uncommon. Nowadays, the spacewalks are also much longer, usually lasting between 5 and 8 hours, depending on the job.
As far as staying of astronauts in space, over a period of time, human beings have well understood what are the challenges, because International Space Station is being populated by the human population for quite some time now. But over a period of time, it has been understood that there are both types of challenges. One is a psychological challenge and other is a medical challenge. As far as psychological challenges are there, you are going to stay there in a zero gravity atmosphere. So thinking of a zero gravity atmosphere for some time and staying there for a number of years or number of days is a very challenging issue. Then there are challenges which are related with human psychology. Because you are staying alone or you are in a company of 2 to 3 people, continuously you are staying in the same type of atmosphere. So you are facing a lot amount of challenges. Then there are medical issues which happen onto your body, because since you are staying in a zero gravity atmosphere, your bone, your muscles, everything starts becoming weak. Then there are issues which are related with your day-to-day activities. To do a day-to-day activity in such a cluttered atmosphere is definitely challenging, and it impacts human psyche also. So there are medical challenges as well as the psychological challenges.
The world record for the most spacewalks is held by Russian astronaut Anatoly Solovyov. He has been on 16 spacewalks and spent more than 82 hours outside in space. That's almost 3.5 days of walking in space. Astronauts go on spacewalks for many reasons. Spacewalks let astronauts work outside their spacecraft while still in space and lets them conduct science experiments in space, allowing scientists to learn how being in space affects different things. Spacewalks also let astronauts test new equipment. They can repair satellites or spacecraft that are in space. When astronauts go on spacewalks, they wear spacesuits to keep themselves safe. These spacesuits are fully equipped with all that an astronaut might need, including oxygen and water. Before going on a spacewalk, astronauts must prepare by putting on their spacesuits several hours before the spacewalk. The suits are then pressurized, meaning they are filled up with oxygen. Once in their suits, astronauts breathe pure oxygen for a few hours, which gets rid of all the nitrogen in their body. If they don't get rid of the nitrogen, the astronauts might get gas bubbles in their body, causing them to feel pain in their shoulders, elbows, wrists, and knees. Astronauts leave the spacecraft through a special door called an airlock, which has 2 2 doors. When astronauts get ready to go on a spacewalk, they go through the first door and lock it tight behind them. They can then open the second door without any air getting out of the spacecraft. After a spacewalk, astronauts go back inside through the airlock. Astronauts stay safe during spacewalks by wearing a safer or simplified aid for EVA rescue. Safer is worn like a backpack. It uses small jet thrusters to let an astronaut move around in space. If an astronaut were to become untethered and float away, Safer would help him or her fly back to the spacecraft. Astronauts control Safer with a small joystick, like on a video game. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And with that, time for a short break here on the program. But when we return, we'll talk about Indian women in space. Do stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching In Depth. Women space travelers are a very small group of people. Till date, of the total 565 total space travelers, only 65 have been women. 2 of them have links to India. While Kalpana Chawla was born in India and immigrated to the US in 1980, Sunita Williams has an Indian-born father. Her paternal family is from Julasan in the Mehsana district of Gujarat. Let's know more about these 2 women in our next report.
Kalpana Chawla was the first woman of Indian descent to go into space. She was also one of the 7 members on the ill-fated NASA Space Shuttle Columbia that disintegrated upon atmospheric entry, killing all 7 in 2003. Born in Karnal, India on 1st July 1961, Chawla was the youngest of 4 children. She obtained a degree in aeronautical engineering from Punjab Engineering College before immigrating to the United States and becoming a naturalized citizen in the 1980s. In 1988, she earned a doctorate in aerospace engineering from the University of Colorado and started working with NASA. Her first opportunity to fly in space came in November 1997 aboard the Space Shuttle Columbia on flight STS-87. The shuttle made 252 orbits of the Earth in just over 2 weeks. It carried out a number of experiments. Chawla deployed the Spartan satellite from the shuttle that studied the outer layer of the Sun. In 2000, Chawla was selected for her second voyage into space as a mission specialist on STS-107. The mission was delayed several times. It finally launched in 2003. Over the course of the 16-day flight, the crew completed 80 experiments. On the morning of February 1, 2003, the space shuttle returned to Earth. It was to have landed at Kennedy Space Center. During the launch, a briefcase-sized piece of insulation had broken off. It damaged the thermal protection system of the shuttle's wing, the shield that protects it from heat during re-entry. As the shuttle passed through the atmosphere, hot gas streaming into the wing caused it to break up. Less than a minute before the ship depressurized, the shuttle broke up over Texas, killing all the crew. The accident was the second major disaster for the space shuttle program. Sunita Williams was born to parents Dr. Deepak and Boni Pandya. She holds the record of the longest space flight by a woman. Born 19th September 1965 in Euclid, Ohio, Sunita Williams has been on several spacewalks. In August 2007, she became the first person to run a marathon in space. Sunita was selected as an astronaut by NASA in June 1998. She also worked in Moscow with the Russian Space Agency on the Russian contribution to the space station and with the first expedition crew. Williams launched with a crew of STS-116 on December 9, 2006, docking with the International Space Station on December 11, 2006. As a member of the Expedition 14 crew, Williams served as a flight engineer. On board, she established a world record for females with 4 spacewalks totaling 29 hours and 17 minutes. On 14th July 2012, Williams launched from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan and returned on 18th November 2012 after spending 127 days in space. During the expedition, Williams performed 3 spacewalks to replace a component that relays power from the space station's solar arrays to its systems and repair an ammonia leak on a station radiator. In all, Williams spent 322 days in space on 2 missions. She ranks second on the all-time US endurance list for females. With 50 hours and 40 minutes, she is second on the list of total cumulative spacewalk time by a female astronaut. Bureau Report, Raj Sabha TV.
And let's now tell you all about the International Space Station. The ISS is a multi-nation construction project that is the largest single structure humans ever put into space. Its main construction was completed between 1998 and 2011, although the station continually evolves to include new missions and experiments. The ISS includes contributions from as many as 15 countries, but the main partners are the United States of America, Russia, and the European Space Agency. The other partners being the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency and the Canadian Space Agency as well. The International Space Station is a large spacecraft that orbits Earth. The multi-nation laboratory has hosted a rotating international crew since November 2000. It is also the largest single structure put into space by humans. As of January 2018, 230 individuals from 18 countries have visited the International Space Station. The United States and Russia are top participating countries. Since 2nd November 2000, astronauts of different countries have occupied the International Space Station continuously. The first piece of International Space Station was launched in 1998 by a Russian rocket. In the following years, more pieces were added. 2 years later, the station was ready for astronauts. On 2nd November 2000, the first crew arrived at the space station. NASA and its partners completed the construction of the International Space Station in 2011. The space station is made of several parts called modules. The first modules had parts needed to make the space station work. Initially, astronauts also lived in these modules. Also called modes, The modules connect parts of the station to each other. Astronauts do their research in the laboratories on the space station. On the sides of the space station are solar arrays. These arrays collect energy from the sun. They turn sunlight into electricity. On the outside, robot arms are attached which help to build the space station. These arms can also move astronauts around outside and control science experiments. Airlocks on the space station are like doors. Astronauts use them to go outside on spacewalks. Docking ports on the space station are also like doors. These ports allow visiting spacecraft to connect to the space station. New crews and visitors enter the station through these docking ports. Astronauts fly to the space station on the Russian Soyuz. The crew members use the ports to move supplies onto the space station. The International Space Station is almost like a house with 5 bedrooms. It has 2 bathrooms, a gymnasium and a big bay window. 6 people can live in it.
As far as India's future in space, I feel that now we are progressing very rapidly. Already India's astronauts who have been actually selected to go as an astronaut to India's Gaganyaan mission must have reached Russia, and they must be undergoing a various rigorous training. These are the 4 Air Force officers who have been specially shortlisted after doing a lot amount of checks and balances. So I think in coming days, after India undertakes a Gaganyaan mission, our next step is going to be to undertake a space shuttle mission. We want to establish a space station also. So there are a lot of things which are in future, but definitely activities in space takes time. You can't do it tomorrow. So I think over a period of time, that means coming 5 to 10 years, we'll have many sorts of things happening in space which are related with human activities in space.
The space station weighs nearly 1 million pounds and is big enough to cover a football field, including the end zones. It has science labs from the United States, Russia, Japan and Europe. The International Space Station includes contributions from 15 countries. American Space Agency NASA, Russia's Roscosmos and the European Space Agency are the major partners of the space station who contribute most of the funding. The other partners are the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency and the Canadian Space Agency. Astronaut time and research time on the space station is allocated to space agencies according to the money or resources like modules or robotics that they contribute.
International Space Station is a space platform. If you can think of a Volvo bus, something like 4 or 5 Volvo bus attached to each other, that's a kind of size that it has. It's around 500 kilometers above Earth, and it's going around Earth in an orbit, which is taking roughly about 90 minutes to make one orbit. From about 2001 till now, there have been always 3 people inside the space station. So it's permanently manned and womened by people for almost 20 years now.
The space station flies at an average altitude of 248 miles or 400 kilometers above Earth. It circles the globe every 90 minutes at about 17,500 minutes per hour or 28,000 kilometers per hour. In a day, the station travels about the distance it would take to go from Earth to the moon and back. Astronauts working on the space station experience 16 sunrises and sunsets each day.
For instance, how humans survive in zero gravity. When you go in a satellite, you just return after 90 minutes or so. You don't know exactly how it affects. But when you stay on the International Space Station for months together, in fact, some the astronauts have spent 1 year, more than 12 months on the space station, and then you can study their physiology after they return to Earth, how they have changed, how they have been affected. Because in zero gravity, our bones become weaker, our length becomes less, all kinds of changes occur. So this kind of study is not possible on Earth. So the space station, it offers a platform to do different kind of physiological and scientific experiments by international community.
The space station appears as a bright moving light across the night sky. It can be seen from Earth without a telescope by night sky observers. The International Space Station will be operated through at least 2024, with partners discussing a possible extension until 2028. Thereafter, plans for the space station are not clearly laid out. It could either be deorbited or recycled for future space stations in orbit. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. And that's it from us on the show today. We'll see you same time on Monday now with a focus on some other subject of current significance. Thank you for your time.